But that story's something fun I like to tell my students. I like to show them a little video. But all that to say, every problem in humanity has been some gigantic issue that we didn't think we could solve.
Yeah.
And just step by step, someone thinks a little bit different, a little outside the box, and they get there. So, something that I really try to get home to my students is like, don't be afraid to just say, hey, I want to be a chief master sergeant, or I want to be the chief master sergeant of the Air Force, or I want to be president. Because honestly, I bet Barack Obama didn't think he'd be president one day. You take your influential person from anywhere. I bet
Yeah.
they did not know they would be where they were at. It just takes little baby steps. So if you can get away from the fear of being overwhelmed by a big ask or a big goal, you can really start to grow from there.
Hello, and welcome to the GrowFrom podcast, where we talk about things that help us grow. Today, we are here with my good friend AJ Lopez, who today is a Master Sergeant Instructor in the Air Force, to talk about training and how the Air Force does their training. Because I think a lot of us have gone through personal growth and development or learned a lot of things, but the Air Force is a different beast. And so we're here to talk with you today, AJ, and learn a little bit about that. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So before we get into any of this, most of the people watching this podcast or who are going to get tagged on social media after we publish this podcast are going to be old friends of yours and mine from Colorado State University. So we've seen your social media. You've been all over the world. You've done so many things, but give us the start from Colorado State University. How did you get into the Air Force, and how did you get to where you are today? Because I think that's what
Oh,
everybody's going to care
geez.
about.
Yeah, well, all right. So, actually, when I was going to graduate from college, I had a job lined up in a company with my cousin. And one thing led to another, a couple of family instances, and my dad passed away. So, I switched gears, grabbed a couple of jobs in Denver, and started helping my mom out, pay the bills for the funeral fees, things like that. And about a year went by, and I felt like I was trapped all of a sudden. I worked really hard in college. I did everything I wanted to do, but now I was sitting here with the job opportunity I once had was gone, and I didn't know where I wanted to go from there. And as I started researching more jobs, I wasn't just looking for the money aspect, but I was also asking myself, like, what could I do that I think intrinsically I would be proud to be a part of? And I think that's where I landed on the military, is just to be part of something that's bigger than yourself, so to speak. I had a taste of that in a fraternity in college as well, but obviously the military is its own beast and much bigger. So I just decided to attack the challenge. My dad was in the Air Force for 4 years, to be able to afford to become a lawyer, and he always loved it. So it had a good taste in my mouth, and I just kind of went for it.
Now, coming from Colorado, the Air Force has a strong foothold in Colorado. We know down in Colorado Springs is the Air Force base. Is this affiliated? Did you go to the Air Force base, or was there another avenue that they took you down?
Yeah, so there's two main avenues, i.e., officer or enlisted. I already had my degree, so officer was possible, but my big issue is I didn't want to wait 3 years. There was a bit of
Mm,
a wait list, and I didn't have a STEM degree, and I also didn't want to be a pilot. I wanted to go non-rated officer. So there's different variations to how that could be done, and I just decided, oh, hey, I'll start enlisted and try to go officer somewhere down the road. And I went to a recruiter actually in Fort Collins, and they got me the job of air traffic controller. What most people don't know is that if they offer you a job, you don't have to take it.
mm,
They'll say, hey, you should be security forces, which is, basically a base police officer. They'll say, hey, you could be a maintainer and go in general maintainer. And, not know what you're gonna be working on, and people just go, okay, cool.
Yeah,
You know,
sounds
a lot
great.
of a lot of kids out of the high school just think, oh well, let's see what happens. But you can actually tell the recruiter, nope, this is what I'm looking for. And for me, I wanted to do a job that was really easily transitionable into the civilian world. So I went to air traffic control knowing that I would be trained well. I would get my license, I'd be fully certified, and I could go work in the civilian side under the FAA if I really wanted to.
Nice. That's cool. I confess, that whole journey early on sounds like a lot of challenges when it came to the funeral costs and having to deal with all of that. So at what point were you able to like get your head above water and say, okay, I've gotten kind of the baseline. I've gotten back to baseline normalcy. Now I can start thinking about real life.
It was tough, when you're presented with these challenges, life just throws at you. Sometimes it's just this gigantic elephant and you don't know how to tackle it, right? But the truth is you hear that saying that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a footstep, or to eat an elephant, you just have to start one bite at a time, insert your little generic quote there. But it's pretty true, I didn't know where to start, but I figured, hey, me and my mom are going to need some money now with my dad gone. So we're going to have to solve that problem now. And I
Yeah.
just started applying to jobs no matter what it was. I took on 6 part-time jobs at one point. And
Wow.
when I first moved to Denver, I literally had 6 jobs because my first two, I wasn't getting enough hours. So I just kept applying, 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 applying. Finally, I made enough where I could pay for all the funeral costs and set my mom up with her new car and like kind of square that away. And then that was my goal, was to
Yeah.
make sure that she was back onto pretty steady waters after that big tidal wave, if you will. So once I was there, I was like, okay, now I need to go back, switch gears, and do me.
Yeah.
I am out of college. I have a big life ahead of me. I got to get this stuff started.
I got student loans to knock down next, right?
Man, I just knocked those babies out this year. I'm so pumped.
Congratulations. It is ridiculous how long it takes to knock those things out.
Yeah.
No, well, congratulations on getting through that, and where you are today. So you got into the Air Force, and then you made a migration. Somehow you've had a journey now from getting into the Air Force and being the air traffic controller to now today you're a master sergeant instructor, helping high level officers. Is it in the
This
explain what you
is,
do? Help me here.
yeah. I know. Sorry. It's like, it's so tough to explain all these little intricacies, but I teach NCOs. So teach technical sergeants, which are E6s, and soon to be master sergeants, which are E7s. So on our little pay scale, it goes from E1 to E9. So I teach the E6 and E7, people that are probably at their 12 to 16-year mark in the Air Force.
Got it. Got it. So what was your journey from the air traffic control role into an instructor?
So I think I liked air traffic as the job itself, but like many things, as we learn in life, there's a lot more behind the job when you're working somewhere, right? Everyone makes things more complicated, bureaucracies get involved, and red tape is there. And it really made my job not fun or not for me, you know?
Yeah.
So I was really had to reevaluate what I wanted. I started out with the goal of being air traffic, which which means you have to pass the tech school, one of the hardest tech schools in the Air Force, besides like linguists or something along those lines. And then I passed that, and then I was like, okay, cool. Now I need to get rated at my base. Passed that, and then it's like, okay, am I actually happy with what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
You get sucked up in working and striving to do so many things and get it done. I just took a beat and was like, this isn't really what I would picture myself doing for the rest of my enlistment, which was 6 years, or if I want to make this a career, go for 20 years doing this, was not what I wanted. So I started seeking mentors and a little bit of advice from people that have my senior and not just in years, but also experience and those types of things. But um, there, it was really important for me to get uh, a lot of different opinions, not just a lot, but like diverse opinions, right? I
Mm.
got opinions from people that were officers, enlisted, you name the different varying experiences that you could have, like different genders, different races, whatever, whatever. That's when I started painting the picture for myself to see a pathway that I could see myself committing to. So about there is when I switched from air traffic, and then I went to personnel, and then as time went on, after 5 bases, I decided to do a special duty to be an instructor because I love teaching.
Yeah, well, and you love people. That's one of the things we all remember. I was actually looking through our Facebook. You know, Facebook has this friendship thing. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
pull it up real quick because it's fun. Um, and I think you and I have probably relieved ourselves of some of the more less interesting photos on Facebook. There we go.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, there it is.
so we had this one. This was at Adam Hickman's wedding. We had a couple other ones, but you have since then you have been all over the world. You're in Greece right now, Santorini, right?
Yep, just got back. Yep.
And if I recall, I don't know if you're familiar with the blue diet. Oh, what
Oh,
is
the
it called?
Mediterranean diet
The
or
Mediterranean diet. It's the
blue zone.
blue zones. Thank you. Yeah, that Santorini is one of those, right?
Yeah, that little pocket in Italy and Greece, I think, is a big area for blue zone. And Japan's another one. Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, so definitely something we can talk about. But I mean, you've been all over. I mean, this is just a sampling. I won't go through all of it. Those of us who have you on our Facebook, really appreciate all the pictures of the beautiful places you've been. Uh, how has it been? How has the travel been? What is have there been difficult places you've been to, or places you want to go back to, or give us the high level here?
Oh man, it's interesting. So I should also mention real quick, for anyone that doesn't know, that my wife is actually from India, right? And so it's interesting now when I get asked questions like that, I take on a new perspective, and my mind immediately goes to the visa situation,
Yes.
right? Like, oh my God, it's so hard to deal with some of these countries as far as their visas going, allowing my wife and I to like actually enjoy some time together somewhere. So,
That's right, because not all countries accept. It's much easier to get around with a U.S. passport than it is with many other countries' passports.
yeah, that's right. So, now that we're here, I'm technically, well, I wouldn't say a German citizen, but I'm allowed to be here for a long duration, right? So now it's significantly easier for me to just skip around in the Schengen visa and
Yeah.
to get my wife the Schengen visa, which is why we're traveling to so many European countries right now. But so I would say when it comes to travel, keep the visa stuff in mind, right? But more importantly, do a little research of the culture that you're going into. We have these preconceived notions, these biases that we don't even realize we have sometimes,
Mm,
and we think our way's better. It's easy to get sucked into a little ethnocentrism as far as
yeah.
like, America does this better or India does this better, whatever the case. So I think traveling, it's really important to open up your mind that way and say to yourself, my way maybe isn't the best way, or there's some cool ways I can try that might also work out for me. The blue zones being a great example of like, hey, this is my diet now. Where could I cut it to do much better for myself?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
my favorite part.
that ethnocentricity drives me crazy about being a U.S. citizen, and I get it. You know, we don't border, dozens of other countries. We're not, a couple hours drive away from other different speaking countries with deep, rich cultures. You know, we're in a place where people have lived here. The people who are here have lived here for, 400, 500 years max. And that goes for Canada, that goes for the US. Most of the indigenous people in our area are relegated to pretty small areas. So our culture is different, and our history is different. And um, uh, but people get so stuck in their ways. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely true. But the more you travel, you've been around quite a bit too. You've gone to Peru, right?
Yeah, so I've done Peru quite a bit. So my wife is from Cusco. She and
Mm-hmm.
I met in Cusco, and she'd been to Australia before that, so she had this beautiful Peruvian Australian accent, which was really cool. And she we've gone through the visa process together. Not just the visa, but getting her citizenship here, and now she has a U.S. passport. So we have some advantages in that sense. But Lima is very different. Cusco is very different as countries. Their culture is different. Just a small example is Cusco, and many people know Cusco because of Machu Picchu, right?
Right. Yep.
And but when you're in Cusco, uh, it's underdeveloped, and there are reasons of political corruption behind it. There are other factors that go in, but one of the big things that my wife made me aware of is that because of Machu Picchu bringing in so much economic wealth into the region, UNESCO's involved with it, protecting it. And
Mhm.
when you start to do a construction project, you try and do these major renovations or and infrastructure improvements, and you start digging down to build this hotel or to build this roadway or whatever it is you want to do. It's like boom, here pops up a new cultural, phenomenon. The latest ruins of such and such, and suddenly UNESCO gets involved and all these other groups get involved, and they say, look, stop, we need to research this, and we need to figure out where it's from, and we can't pave over it. And so there's reasons behind all of these things that are much deeper
Mhm.
than I think our preconceived notions can make us understand.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I was just in Athens too, and the Acropolis Museum's the same too, right? Every time they dig in Greece, they find some new artifact, and they're like, "Pause construction. We need to see what this is." you
Yeah.
know? Oh,
I-
it's an old Coke can. Keep digging.
it's impressive. I wonder how the construction companies get reimbursed for those pains or insured for those pains. But my I guess my conclusive thought is that here in the U.S. we don't have that. We don't have
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of those considerations. We don't have a rich history and culture that we are trying to protect. I mean, we're still very much a nascent country, and it's important to see these other countries for the depth that they bring.
Yeah, and we sort of it's easy to trip into that bias where America is so new, like what you're saying, right? So if we need to redo some sanitation lines or do this, do that, it's relatively easy for us. But if England needs to do it, they need to remodel something that was maybe started in like the 1700s, right? Or
Yeah,
like an aqueduct that's been an aqueduct since way before anyone alive today was, right?
yeah,
And it's just one of those things you get trapped and you're like, oh man, why aren't these countries just fixing up what they need to? And it's just, there's so many layers to everything wherever you travel. And until you like put your shoe in those boots, you're just like, oh, I start to understand, some of these struggles that they're having. And I can appreciate now or have some gratitude that we don't have certain struggles in America, right? But
yeah.
at the same time, not in an ethnocentric way, just being appreciative that, oh, glad we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the older people. They have their way of doing things, and because it works, right? And here in America, we're like, well, but we could try these things. We could do all this stuff. We could ruin our diet, and we're still figuring things out. I think, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's all part of the journey. People don't realize that countries are like people. They have a growth process and they have maturity. But um, I actually had an entire video planned out for growing from travel, like grow from travel,
Hmm.
which would be great for us to talk about. But here we're talking about training, so I should pivot us. Uh, so one of a couple of the things we talked about. Let's just level set. Today you are teaching these between E6 and E7 uh, uh, NCOs, right?
Hmm.
I got it right this time. And one of the things that amazes me is that in our journey as adults, we kind of reach this point where we're done with college. We're like, okay, we're gonna get a job, or we're gonna get into it, and we're just gonna like do the technical stuff that's gonna get us where we need to go. And we all know that there's a soft skills learning curve to it too. But it's so it's not really clear. Like, it's not like you learn this and you get a certificate like, oh, I'm a good person now, or like I can effectively do this. But I always envisioned that the Air Force has it so much better figured out than most of the rest of us do. So can you give us some insights into the Air Force training, what the methodology looks like? Is it better than everything else out there? And we talked Simon Sinek, so you can bring him in too.
Oh yeah, Simon Sinek's basically the godfather of a lot of our curriculum for leadership schools. You can tell, at least in the 10 years that I've been in the military, right? There has been a significant shift of going into the importance of what soft skills really are.
Mm,
Um, Acknowledging that bias, that piece that we're talking about in traveling, right? That is huge now because we play these videos by like Ross Howard or Gail Totsi Miller. They're both people that have done TED Talks on this issue. But it's really interesting. They talk about the shortcuts that our brain makes. And I think it was Ross Howard who says, like, the reason that we have these unconscious biases was from survival reasons, right? Like, we have all this information going and attacking our brains at one time. We needed a way that our brains could give us the important information in a shortcut to help us survive.
yeah,
Like, oh, we're walking up to this water hole that's stagnant. Shortcut, I know that that's dangerous. Let me get away. I just heard a bush rustle. I know that that's another animal. That's most likely a dangerous animal. I need to run away.
yeah.
We have those responses a little bit faster. So that's something that we're taking in the military, ideas like that, and shifting it to say, like, how are our unconscious biases affecting us right now? Or hiring practices is a really good example because for it's been proven 7 different ways. If you are in an interview, someone's gonna have some sort of affinity bias, and you're more likely to get that job
Yeah,
if you're more like that person,
yeah,
right? And that was a problem that the military had. We had a lot of white males that were becoming our leaders at one point in time until we acknowledged that this is a problem and then said, you know what? We need to make sure that we're giving people in different ethnic backgrounds, different genders, different races, all these things. We need to make sure that they have an equal opportunity, right? And then so you see us shifting to like the way we do promotions. We cut out their gender, we cut out their race, we cut out those things. Or hiring opportunities. We have to push for that diversity of thought. We have to
hmm,
make sure that we're hiring people not necessarily of a different race, but we have to make sure we're hiring people that are from the personnel career field, the mechanical career field, the operational side, the intel side, just so that we have enough perspectives to paint a full picture and we aren't
mm.
teaching in just one line of thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting. I think there's really three things that pop into my head, and the internet has been a buzz with the diversity and inclusion conversations, but the the first is that multiple perspectives provide you a better understanding of the world, and I think that's something that you've clearly appreciated because that's what you went out to do. You went out to seek multiple perspectives on what your career
Yeah.
was going to be and where you should be going. And uh, it's so valuable from the standpoint of making a good decision, because how many career shifts can you make in a life, right? Not
Mm,
too many. And so you want to make a good one. You want to head in the right direction, the one that's going to bring you the most happiness, most money. And the second thing in that is merit, right? It's uh the cognitive biases that we have make us believe that we will find more people of merit in a certain group,
hmm.
and that
Yep,
because
absolutely.
this group has such and such experience, or has such and such looks like such. I mean, a great example. I was in computer science, and when we had a girl in the class, everybody looked like, what? It was, and there are assumptions, and there were biases in terms of what their capability would be, in terms of how good of a coder they would be. And I mean, there's some fantastic girl coders out there,
Hmm.
um, but there's certainly a bias. And but the third thing on that one was, it's interesting that they're broadening their marketing on it,
Mm,
and broadening the application pool, because there's an expense with that, right? Just like our brains have limited resources to focus in on certain opportunities, or to focus in on certain, our financial, our wallet also has limits to it too, in terms of how big a spread. If you market something on Facebook and you narrow it down to men. Hey bud, you're coughing. Okay, hang on one sec. You want to say hi to AJ? You can talk into the
hey,
microphone.
hey,
Hi.
hey, bud.
He said, "Hey, bud." All right. Get some water for the cough, okay? I'm gonna finish my podcast. Though. Can you give me a little bit? I'll show you later. That is for storage. Hang on one sec.
No worries. I'll go grab a water real quick.
All right, that was the Logan cameo.
Okay.
There we go.
Figured I'd take a water break.
All good. Yeah, that was a nice Logan cameo.
What a cutie.
Yeah, he's great. He's at 3 now. We've got 2, so he's 3 years old, and our youngest is 3.5 months now. Those half months make a difference. Um,
Hmm.
and so my life is up to here in diapers and potty training and all that stuff, but it's all
Mm.
good. Um, yeah, so I mean, there is a lot that goes into broadening your perspective, and I think it's really interesting that there's been that shift. Do you is it Simon Sinek that created that shift in the mindset of the military today, or is there another perspective? Is it political? Is it uh
Um, yeah, so I wouldn't chalk it up to, I joke about how he's the godfather of our curriculum because he has so much involvement in it. But like the truth is that we have three major leadership schools in the Air Force specifically. And they're supposed to hit you at the really impactful points of your career where you have to make your shifts as a leader. So
mm,
like we have something called Airman Leadership School when you're going to be a first line supervisor. You're going to, in theory, supervise 1 to maybe 5 people, right? Sometimes you get more, but it is what it is. And then I teach NCOA, the Non Commissioned Officer Academy. So that's that, like I'm saying, a little bit more seasoned of a leader. And then finally, you would have Senior NCO Academy for the folks that are like E8s going in up to like the E9 level, right? And so when they're making this curriculum, they use research from all the top researchers. They'll call them in to, we have an actual college, right? The Community College of the Air Force. And we also have something called the Barn Center. And they make our professional military education curriculum. And they
Mm,
have doctors that are there. They have folks, researchers that come in, try to help us develop a curriculum for like actually targeting how do we make better leaders. So it's similar to a civilian organization or business, right? They'll call on Simon Sinek or guys like that who can really try to teach a lesson, make it applicable, and more importantly, make it reverberate like, oh, this actually sticks in the minds
yeah,
of the people that are learning it. So he is a big factor, but I think that it's really just there's a natural culture push in the military that we could always be doing better. We can
yeah,
always be innovating, we can always be pushing, and we have to because there's adversaries who don't want us to be better or they want to be better than us, and it has real impact, right? So there's an intrinsic motivation, and I think just a culture, at least in the Air Force. I can't necessarily speak to all branches, but from what I've seen, the other branches are pretty much there too, where you just want to keep innovating. You always want another way.
yeah. Well, and certainly the Air Force and the other branches of the military have the resources to bring in the best of the best to help coach that. So, uh, give us some perspective because most of us are in the civilian world and we don't understand E1s and E10s and any
Yeah,
of that
sure.
stuff. But give us some perspective on two things. One, what is what does that scale look like? How does it equate? Let's talk specifically E7, E9, or E6, E7, which is what you said you were focused on, and also how that equates to the civilian world, and also some of the impactful trainings that you guys provide, or some of the things that you think are really giving your trainees an edge.
Yeah, honestly, it's a little tough, not a one for one swap onto the civilian world, right? And we have different jobs, like specialties, right? We call them AFSCs, which are Air Force Specialty Codes, but essentially they're different jobs. So if I'm a master sergeant in a personnel career field, I am probably going to be a flight chief that's roughly in charge of 5 to 6 sections of people, ultimately anywhere from 50 to 100 people.
Mm,
Okay. To kind of put that in perspective, it's more complicated than that, but
yeah.
we'll talk broad brushstrokes because everyone will be snoozing, including myself, if I had to go through it all. But to answer your second question, like how do we target a very broad, diverse group of people as far as their experience levels goes, as far as their jobs go, and make them better leaders? That's the thing that we really struggle with is how can I explain something that a maintainer would get, but also a personnelist would get, or an intelligence operative, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever.
So it's
So
not just broad this way, but it's also broad this way in terms of their experience levels.
very much so. Yeah, and different career fields call for different abilities, different traits of a leader. Right?
Mm,
There's some folks that won't have to deal with supervising too many airmen by the time they're a master sergeant, and then there's others that I think I've had probably 40 airmen or something crazy. Just directly supervising, not talking about sections I've been in charge of and things like that. Right? So that experience can vary a lot. And I think one thing that we really want to take away when we teach something like unconscious bias is accept that you have a bias first off, acknowledge it, but then actively attack it. Try to
yeah.
break down any barriers you have, right? So bringing it back to civilian world, you're advertising, let's say you have a software program that's super great for cybersecurity, and you want to kick out an ad to 20 to 40-year-old males because that would be your best demographic. But then,
Right.
like you're saying, now you're missing a demographic that could potentially give you new perspectives, give you huge experiences on any take that you would have in like a day-to-day operation, right?
Yeah, I can speak to that, play the devil's advocate on that though, because
Sure.
as a startup founder, the first thing and the most important thing for us to do is find what is called our bulkhead. And
Hmm.
we stole the term from the military, but it's like
Yeah.
where are we going to breach? Where are we going to enter the marketplace? And it has to be narrow. It has to be
Hmm.
super defined. And when you go into a pitch meeting, when you go and talk to investors, the first thing they ask you is who's your target market. And if you don't have a breach point, if you don't have a bulkhead that you are very clear about, for example, Canva, the way that they got into the marketplace was they were very specifically targeted to people who made yearbooks. And so
Hmm.
they built this platform for people who made yearbooks, and that was so narrow and so focused, but it allowed them to create a product that today it's feasible to broaden their reach
Right.
and to share who it's
Hmm.
applicable to. But early on, and for most of us founders, we're actually told the opposite. Don't try to keep it broad. Try and keep it as specific as possible.
Yeah, and I don't think that's like a devil's advocate thing or playing opposites, right? We're talking about different stages
Yeah.
essentially. Once you're at stage two of an operation, then that's when you could be like, oh, who am I missing? Who can I get in here to provide me a new perspective with building this business, right?
Right. Right.
Because that's the key. We have this exercise that we do with our students. Not to give too much away for any future student that I'll have, we give them these little soft stress balls that are one
Mm.
color, one of four colors. And I just pass them out randomly to 12 students in the class. And I tell them, you know what? I want you guys to break yourselves up in a group. I give them no other direction whatsoever. I say, break yourselves up into groups. They assume that I want them to break up based on the color of the ball, even though I don't say that at
Yeah.
all, right? So then you got a group of four people with yellow balls, red balls, blue balls, and I'm just like, why on earth did you guys set that group up?
Yeah.
And it's just as simple as affinity bias, or it's as simple as, hey, I knew that person had a yellow ball, saw something I related, boom, right?
Mm.
But now let's take that to a real life scenario. If I have four maintainers, four security forces, four personnelists in a room, and I say group yourselves up, and they all sit in those pockets of a group of security forces, a group of maintainers. Now, what kind of perspectives are they going to have when we're trying to solve problems?
Yeah.
Are they going to cross the aisle at all? Are they going to have any varying perspectives? Or are they all just going to sit there and say, this is the problem? We got it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, every problem is a nail if you're a hammer, right?
100%. And I have to imagine it. When you talk about the size of teams that you work with, I think the scale that the military works at is completely different from the scale that we think about. If you're
Yeah, that's fair.
Uh, uh, but but I have to imagine managing groups and managing personalities and understanding how to do so has to be pretty important to you guys.
Hmm.
How do you do that? Is there personality tests taken? Or do you guys train on how to match people up, or is it just like, here's what we're gonna do, you guys fall in line, figure out your personality and make it work for whatever we need to accomplish?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before too, right?
Hmm.
You can use those personality tests. Like I think the DISC model is one that you were familiar with, right?
Yeah, I've got a
Was it the
couple of them.
DISC?
There's Big Five,
Yeah.
there's Disc. I'm familiar with
Uh-huh.
with a handful. Yeah.
And then I think we used to use the four lenses. There's like the five voices. There's tons of them, right? We do study that. We have multiple trainings. I think since I've been in 11 years, I've probably gone through five or six personality tests.
Hmm.
And we're not just learning about ourselves, right? We're also learning how do you interact with someone that's this type of trait or this type of characteristic, this type of personality. And I think there's a lot of value in that, but there's definitely a push in the military to be like, hey, how do you hone your soft skills to deal with someone that's more direct? Or how do you try to deal with someone that's maybe a little more empathetic, sympathetic, more
Oh,
caring?
when we think of the military, when I think of the military, I shouldn't speak for everybody else, but I mean, I'm picturing drill sergeant all day, every day. Like I just imagine everybody in the military is a drill sergeant. So is that you? Are you the AJ I knew in college was not a drill sergeant, but so I'm just picturing you like grilling and spitting in the face of the cadets and saying, why is your bed not made or whatever it is that. Is that the personality of the sergeants? How and explain that?
Yeah, everyone has that perception, right? Like, and I think even when you enter, when you're an airman, you have that perception that that's how you're going to be spoken to and that's how you're supposed to speak to people. But after a little bit of culture clashing and then a little bit of correction, you're like, oh, I can still be me, right? There's still different ways to motivate people. And yeah, there is an urgency in our work sometimes. And it's simply like, I can't have you talk back to me right now because of the speed of the problem we need to
Right.
operate at. Right. And after, let's table some thoughts. You could give me feedback. That's cool. But being able to have that discussion as a supervisor or as a subordinate prior to things getting heated is something that we focus on a lot. But to answer your question, no, it varies. The culture changes, people change, and you're dealing with people, so it's always complicated and different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the best leaders in the civilian world take from that too. It's kind of like when you're in an extreme environment and you go to a relaxed environment, you've got so many more tools and skills because you've figured out how to make that. And sometimes they don't always translate, but my old CEO uh, was was from the military. He was, I want to say he was in the army,
Mm.
and everything he shared with me was an analogy for the army. He was like, "Well, in the army, you have to check the canteens, and then you have to make sure that this and that." And I remember we were doing an ERP project, and it was incredibly difficult. ERP, if you've never implemented it, or if you've never been on like the technology side, it's basically like uplifting a whole organization. And uh, so anyway, I'm running this project, and we were talking about different approaches we could take. And I remember he was like, "Well, you don't want to take the easiest approach because if you take the easiest approach," and then he tells me the story about like two troops, one that goes the easy route, one that goes the obscure route, and the easy route was known by the enemies, and they got blown up, and he's like, "See, so you got to take the hard route sometimes." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's very applicable." But I remembered it, and so maybe it was good, but that transition of the civilian world into the military world can be interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know
those
where I was going with
stories,
that.
man. Those stories always crack me up. To be honest, I see them all the time.
Really?
Just like what? Like we're not in Vietnam right now. Like I just need to solve this problem.
Yeah. I,
Sometimes it does not transfer.
I mean, I don't know. I try to be open minded. I appreciate the experience that other people come from, and I think the whole purpose of this podcast is that we all grow from what our experience has been, whether it's the travel that we've done, the training that you've provided, maybe it's the careers that we've been in or mentors we've had, and um, I love that. I love that we're all kind of on this journey to become better people, and our organizations like the Air Force are hopefully on the journeys to become better organizations, and our country's on a journey to try and hopefully become a better country, and all of those things. So it's important what you do, and it's important that we all kind of keep pushing in that direction. So uh,
Yeah, and
again,
to
don't.
that point, like that's where I think Simon Sinek fit in really well. Was he has this video? You can look it up on YouTube. It's trust versus performance,
Yeah.
and I think that was a really big culture change in the military, where everyone was focused on performance. How
Yeah.
well are we performing? How well is the unit performing? Are we getting our goals accomplished at the right time span? All these things, right? Performance, performance, performance. But Simon Sinek in this video, he talks about how, like, that's cool, but people want to work with the person they trust the most. They want to work with the person that they can trust.
Yeah.
And that was something that I really see resonating throughout our culture right now, is that we aren't trying to build these robots who just complete task after task. We're trying to build trust between each other and have a really open communication
Mm.
between the folks that we have to work with. And that's where we're taking our game to the next level, I think.
Wow, that's really great. Yeah, I'm not sure if I may have seen that video. But what I really like about it is the idea that, when you're in the foxhole. So I'm currently looking. If anybody out there is a developer, I'm looking for a co-founder for GrowFrom, especially on the technical side, because we've got so much that we can do in terms of helping people make progress with their goals and creating the home for personal development. But one of the things that I worry about more than anything, more than competence, is are they going to be committed? Are they do am I going to have this trust with them? Or can I trust
Mm.
that they have? And I don't care if things are going bad in their world and they have to take time, and there's I'm understanding that, but that trust factor is so much more important. It's like, are we building this together? Are we in it together really? Or are you a lone wolf and gonna stab me in the back later on kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So how is that part of your training today, or is it just the video that you're putting out there? How does that affecting you guys?
Well, it's interesting. We also use something called the situational leadership model. Sorry, just throwing all these random things at you.
Yeah, I think it
But
was this one. Let me pull it up because we did discuss this one a little bit. This guy.
yeah, yeah, that's it. So if you start at the bottom right corner, right, you're in that more directing phase, you're in that micromanaging phase, and then you work up to coaching, supporting, and then eventually delegating, where you're at that full trust level. Like, I know I have trained you, I know that you know what you're doing. And even if you don't want to do it my way anymore, I know that you have a way forward to
Yeah.
accomplish what we need to effectively, right? And taking this, combining that mix between just putting it on a visual aid to say, like, hey, you're a leader at points, you're a manager. And once you're past like teaching someone a specific job, that's when you need to lean back and start delegating. And we do something called mission command. This is something that's huge in the military now. But a lot of people, when they picture the military, they picture what you would call command and control. They get an order, they get told to do something, they accomplish it, and then move on. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that, right? Like, for another detail, like a commander will say, hey, I need you to get to the letter D. Command and control, he's saying you need to go A, B, C before you get to
Right.
D. But nowadays in the military, we talk about mission command in terms of, like, if I need you to get to D, I don't care how you get there. You could go XWQP as long as D is there. As long
Yeah.
as you got my end product, I'm cool,
Yeah.
you know? And there's that trust factor works into that. Yeah, performance is important. I need to make sure you get to objective D. But
Right.
the trust side is, can I trust that you are going to, if you're going to go off the beaten path, you're going to not use too many resources, for one, right? You're going
Yeah.
to do this in a sustainable way, but you're also going to do it where you're not creating a shortcut that's going to be a problem for us in the future,
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's
You're
where
you're
it's
going you're doing
important.
PZX, but you're definitely not doing K, because we know we've agreed. We've already talked about that. That is not the way to go.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have that combination of, yeah, performance is important, but how can you look at it from that leadership perspective to just not think about the outcome? Think about the person along the ride. Think about what kind of sidelines you're giving them to work with before you set them free in that kind of delegation task. So yeah, just to kind of loop it all together, I think that's how it comes to be, where it could work in a civilian world too.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, and I'll reiterate something I said last time we talked about this, which is uh, people tend to think that micromanaging is a bad thing, and I'm on Reddit a lot today because Reddit's just well, it's been interesting, and it amazes me how many people on there are upset about their jobs or they're complaining about their managers. And I've almost never I've managed people, I've been managed, and I've almost never been in a situation where somebody was a micromanager without a reason. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if they trust you, then they let you go and they give you the rope. If they don't trust you, they micromanage you. And
Yeah.
so if and this is for anybody out there who's listening and feel like you're being micromanaged, there's a look in the mirror there, right? Like if you're being micromanaged, it's probably because you're not trusted. And I'm the guy, the first one who's going to go off of the ABC path, who's going to like jump around. So one of the things that I've had to accept or understand is uh, if a person expects A, B, C, D, I'm probably not going to be working well under them, and two, that I create mistrust if I do it too early. You know,
Oh yeah.
if you
Mm-hmm.
jump in and you say, "Hey, I can do this. I'm gonna get you D," and you don't have that trust with them yet, that creates a lot of friction too.
Oh yeah, that's a super good point. Because you need that building phase, right? I need to know you understand this process. Otherwise, you can come off as like arrogant or kind of like I know better, right?
Yeah,
If you're just looking at a process and saying, nope, that's not it. Let's go, you know?
yeah.
And it doesn't hurt you to try that process that seems silly, you know, at first till you build that trust. But yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. I,
I've done that myself many a times.
yeah. Jumped around before letting them know you know what's up. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough, and it's even tougher. We talked about personality tests. One of the things that I've been looking at a lot lately is the Big Five personality test,
Hmm.
and mostly because Jordan Peterson's talked about it a lot, and I took his test online, the Understand Me. And one of the things that interests me the most about it, I'm going to sneeze here in a second, but um, one of the things that interests me the most is the idea that our personalities are fixed.
Mm.
That you learn over time how to operate within the deficiencies and the strengths of your personality, how to mitigate the weaknesses that come with your personality, but who you are tends to be fixed throughout a lifetime. And I find that really interesting because we talk with nature nurture all the time. um, but there's this concept at least prevailing now that at least Peterson's bought into, and the Big Five is based on, is that there is nature. Your personality is nature. It's given to you at birth, and I see it with my kids. I see it with Logan. I hear it from other parents when they talk about their kids. Like, yeah, that kid, that personality that you saw at 2 years old, it'll change. I mean, they'll grow, but it'll be the same when they're
Hmm.
older. And so if you're a person who's like us, going to jump to D, but we're going to do it our own way. This is an important lesson to take away, like that can be a strength, finding a better path, finding your own path, finding something that's comfortable and works for you. um, but there's some mitigating strategies to take away too, to make sure that it doesn't harm others or builds trust with others.
Yeah, right. Trying to find that lack of friction early, you know.
Absolutely. So there was one other topic that we wanted to touch on. It. We talked about a couple of things, but the biggest one that I thought, and the biggest takeaway that you wanted to leave the listeners with, was the idea of dreaming big.
Mm.
Um, uh, let's talk about that. What
Yeah,
is your big dream, and how has dreaming big taken you to where you are today?
I want to start because there's a little lesson I teach in one of my classes. It's probably one of my favorite lessons, but it's critical thinking, right?
Mm,
And I start the lesson off with this prompt. I ask just real quick, if you, Kevin, were in Germany, right? And you were in the army and you needed to build a, let's say you needed to build a bridge. Okay, that bridge had to be adjustable. It could work with a pontoon in the middle of a river so that it could float. It couldn't use aluminum. It couldn't be confusing as far as have complicated parts. It had to be easy to build. It had to be built at night. The pieces had to be able to fit in one serviceable truck, and it had to be able to be carried by 6 soldiers. Do you think you could accomplish that mission?
Oh, I'd have so many
Just up
questions.
front. So many
No,
questions.
no.
Do you just be like, no, I can't build a bridge.
I
Right?
don't have the engineering background for that. I mean, am I going to be able to hire an engineer? Can I? What kind of materials are available to make? No, I'm not going to walk into that trap.
And most people would just say no outright. I will
Yeah,
not be
no.
able to do that.
No.
Too many factors. I don't have an engineering degree. No, no. But there's this cool video I have. It's called the Bailey Bridge, and it was created by Donald Bailey in World War II. But he builds this Bailey Bridge. He was an engineer, right? So take the lesson just as a broad brushstroke. But he created a brand new bridge for all of humanity. Bridges were made a certain way, right? And if you look at that video I just mentioned, you'll see they show you how like a modern bridge is built. You know, they make these gigantic gaps in the water with these huge stands, and then they pour in cement and make these little stands for support beams, and they take all these tractors and big machines, all these things, right? This is what Bailey did with his bridge. Is he made these little beams that were probably a little bit longer than my wingspan, maybe 6 feet each, and you were able to stack them in little pieces. And it was designed like a big triangle in a box. Each little piece was.
Hold on, hold on. I'm gonna pull this up for the viewers. Bailey Bridge is it?
Yeah,
It's
that would
called.
probably be useful. Yeah. Bailey.
Here's a nice architectural. I hope I got the right thing. Yeah, one. There we go. I got that. Is that right?
Yeah. So we could go off of this image,
There's a
but
couple. There's a couple other ones here we could pull from.
I like it. But I really want to see, is there one where it just shows the individual? Maybe that one with the yellow. You see the yellow highlight at the top now? Top. Yep.
This one.
Yep. So this is an individual component.
Okay.
That yellow brace right there is one individual component, right? And they would stack it in the back of this truck. Then the way that you put it together is you hold it up and you can pin it to the next little piece. So there's these little holes, and you could put a pin in it with just a hammer.
We're talking right here. Those pins.
Yep. And then it would attach to the next piece.
Okay. And it looks like they're rounded, so you could like have it flat and then attach it, and it would flip down.
The that piece is straight and like
Okay.
pretty rigid, but
Okay.
you would piece it with multiple pieces, right? And then
Okay.
here's the cooler part about the invention, I think, is besides meeting all these other crazy things that like I brought up at the beginning, all the difficult parts of that task, besides meeting that, he made it so that you could build it with just the pins. So you just take a pin, you hammer it into the little hole, it's snug, tight. Then that last panel, because it's a war, World War II, you don't have access to the other side of the river. Let's say it's the Rhine because we're in Germany, right?
Right.
So if I don't have access to the other side, how on earth am I going to build a bridge on this side and make it cross the river?
Yeah.
That's a problem in itself. So what he did was he made a roller. So you could roll the girders that you just built up and then have it drop on the pontoon in the river or on the other side of the river.
Oh.
Moreover, that very last panel, he made it so that it's tilted up, it's angled up just a little bit. Because if you have it go straight, it's just gonna hit below or under the ground and be at like the river level, right? So
Okay.
to have that angle up, it'll hit and then roll over the ground on the next surface.
Ah.
So the
Okay.
Bailey Bridge became the wartime bridge. And you'll see if you ever pull up this video. Actually, this picture comes from that video specifically. But if you ever pull up this video, they talk about how General Dwight D. Eisenhower literally said it's the top three inventions of World War II, next to the radar and the heavy bomber,
Oh wow.
because it allowed us to build over 4,000 bridges and get our soldiers across all these rivers throughout Europe.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
But that story is something fun I like to tell my students. I like to show them a little video. But all that to say, every problem in humanity has been some gigantic issue that we didn't think we could solve.
Yeah.
And just step by step, someone thinks a little bit different, a little outside the box, and they get there. So, something that I really try to get home to my students is like, don't be afraid to just say, hey, I want to be a chief master sergeant, or I want to be the chief master sergeant of the Air Force, or I want to be president. Because honestly, I bet Barack Obama didn't think he'd be president one day. You take your influential person from anywhere. I bet
Yeah.
they did not know they would be where they were at. It just takes little baby steps. So if you can get away from the fear of being overwhelmed by a big ask or a big goal, you can really start to grow from there.
It's I think about that big goal. I've spent probably the last 15 years in personal development. One of the biggest things, the promise of personal development, I should say, uh, is that if you invest in yourself, you will achieve more than you could hope to achieve. That you can achieve these big goals because you yourself are going to improve, and you yourself will get there. And I kind of consider myself a little bit of a guinea pig in this journey, where it's like, okay, I've invested a lot in myself over the last years. I have a big goal, and hopefully those things come together and create something really cool out of it. But one thing I noticed, and I continue to notice things as I go through my journey, is how much growth a person needs. You have to be consistently thinking about your growth and working on it, and taking big steps. Taking big steps to achieve big dreams forces you to do things that you would not normally do. Whether it's starting a podcast, or whether it's networking like crazy to connect with people. I see people on LinkedIn that have like 50,000 connections. I'm like, what the heck, And I start to get it now. It's like, okay, they didn't start with 50,000. They started off influential, and we all start off at different places. But um, I love that about the big dreams, and where it can take you, where it can take each individual in their personal growth. So bring it to a personal level for us. For you, what's your big dream, and what are you working on right now to get there?
Yeah, I was one of those people that really had trouble identifying my dreams, I think, at first. I generally started pretty simple when I joined the Air Force. I wanted to make sure I continued my education, get a master's degree with less debt this time was my ideal. I wanted to make sure that I got rated because air traffic's a stressful job. It's tough. Not everyone makes it. And I just wanted to make sure that I was doing well by the people that I had to supervise as far as not hinder their careers, right? And they seem like pretty small goals now that I'm speaking of it now, but at the time it felt huge. Like getting a
Mm,
master's degree felt like this gigantic hill that I had to go up because I was just so over school. I was
yeah.
burnt out, you know, and it's just one of those things. But as I kept going, kept moving, you were like, you know what? I think I can make senior airman, staff sergeant, tech sergeant, master sergeant by, I think I can make it my first time every time. As
Yeah.
long as I just kind of think ahead and put myself in uncomfortable positions, things I don't think I'm ready for.
Yeah.
Right. So my whole career has been me in positions that are one rank above me and something I had no business doing. That's the God's honest truth. Like, I
Yeah.
was in jobs I had no business being in, and all I had to do was just keep kicking my feet, kept trying to tread water, get out of whatever situation I was in, and next thing I knew, I was like, "Huh, that kind of worked out. Let's go again."
Well,
So
you've never lacked for optimism, or confidence, and I think that's really an interesting observation in your journey, is that um, striving for that next level and going, taking on something that you're not quite ready for. And I see so many people, that's one of the hardest things they can do, is is take on a challenge that they're not ready for and believe that they will get there. So where do you pull your inspiration from? Where do you draw your courage from, I should say, to do that? Is it just your past experiences? Is it those around you encouraging you? Is it
I think I had to give myself a bit of a reality check, but I had to just sit there and think like, if I failed at this, who cares?
mm,
Most of the time it does not matter, right? Like there's certain things you do not want to fail out, don't get me wrong. But if I go and try for my masters and fail a class, like so what?
mm,
I never did, but I'm just saying, like, we think of it as this end all be all sometimes. We won't put ourselves in these situations that are uncomfortable because we're worried about how other people are going to think of us, or we're going to worry that we'll get really embarrassed that we failed. And the truth is that you learn from your failures. And if you aren't failing, then you're not getting any better. If you're not trying anything new, you're not getting any better. So what's
mm-hmm.
the point? you know?
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I think that's a good note to kind of wrap things up on. But before we do, I want to say that thank you so much. We've had a friendship that spans many years, and over the years we've kind of pinged each other and gotten back in
Oh,
touch.
we're
But
old.
it's been almost 15 years, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. But it's always great to talk with you and reconnect. And I hope that the Air Force gives you ample opportunities to explore your musical interests, because we all know
yeah.
how much you love music. But from a training perspective, for the content for this video, is there anything you wanted to that we haven't covered that you wanted to say to future trainees, or the Air Force in general, that you think would be valuable as a takeaway?
Well, I guess just to be valuable takeaway, huh? Let's see. Yeah. Allow yourself room to grow. Allow yourself room to fail. Don't be scared of it. And if you are lucky enough to be in that position to supervise people, don't take it lightly. Make sure they're pushing themselves and you're pushing them into opportunities where they can grow. And make sure that when you're empowering them to do something, it's okay if they fail. Like set them into these positions where if they fail, it's not the end of the world, but they got to try something new. And I think it makes people a better supervisor when they allow subordinates to do that, but it also teaches really big lessons when
Mm.
you can give people that room for failure. So that's something that I would definitely foot stomp as far as this goes. But anyway, Kevin, thank you so much for having me. I had a pleasure. It was a great time to catch up to you. Happy to do it again sometime or whatever. We need to keep in touch.
All right, sounds good, AJ. Thanks a lot, man. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna put the stop to the video now. You're gonna notice in the top right, you'll see some upload.